Aryna Sabalenka walked onto the Campo Centrale in Rome on May 9, 2026 and lost, ending a streak of 17 straight tournaments where the world number one had reached at least the quarterfinals. And the stadium told a story that the WTA does not want told. Not a story about tennis, a story about power, money, and who this sport is actually built for. Because at the exact same tournament, on a smaller court, no fanfare, no primetime slot, Alexandra Eala didn't have an attendance problem. Eala had an overflow problem.
I think at some point we'll boycott it. Like that's gonna be the only way to kind of like fight for our rights.
To understand what's really going on in Rome, you have to understand the Foro Italico's architecture of illusion. The Campo Centrale, the main stadium, holds over 10,000 fans. But those seats you see in every broadcast frame, the lower boxes right behind the players, they're not available to you. They're not available to the average tennis fan at any price. Those seats are locked inside multi-day corporate hospitality packages reserved for sponsors and high-net-worth individuals who during morning and early afternoon sessions simply don't show up. And that's what creates the ghost stadium effect. Sections listed as sold out, sections that are physically empty, while above them, in the upper tiers, the real fans, the ones who paid €319 for a day session back in 2023, are watching a world number one from a distance, with the corporate boxes beneath them sitting completely vacant. By 2026, this had become economically brutal. Sunday morning sessions on the secondary market started at $357. Wednesday sessions peaked at $862. A single finals ticket hit €1,074. Those aren't prices for a sport trying to grow its audience. Those are prices that function as a wall. And that's where the first real contradiction appears.
Definitely when you see the number and you see the amount that the player is receiving, and I feel like the show is on us. I feel like without us, there wouldn't be a tournament and it wouldn't be that entertainment. So definitely we deserve to be paid more.
Here's the thing, those empty lower tiers during Sabalenka's matches aren't evidence that fans don't want to watch Aryna Sabalenka. They're evidence of a scheduling system that practically guarantees the stadium will look empty. Tournament organizers in Rome and at Roland Garros have a well-documented habit of slotting marquee women's matches at 11 a.m. That's right when local spectators are still arriving, when the hospitality crowd is on its second espresso, when the lower boxes, already reserved by corporate accounts with no intention of showing up until the afternoon, are sitting empty in the broadcast frame for the whole world to see. Take Sabalenka's French Open quarterfinal against Zheng Qinwen in 2026. The match started at 11 a.m. on the 15,000-seat court Philippe Chatrier. The lower tiers were, in the tournament's own words, nearly deserted. Sabalenka said it herself. I definitely think that would make more sense to kind of like move our match for a little bit later, say just more people in the stands watching these incredible battles. French Open director Amélie Mauresmo acknowledged the issue, but her explanation was telling. Men's best-of-5 matches offer more value for money for the high-revenue night sessions, and so the cycle continues. Women's matches get pushed into low-visibility morning slots, which creates the empty stadium imagery, which then gets used to justify keeping women's matches in those same slots. But in Rome, 2026, there was another layer to this, because Sabalenka wasn't just playing to a ghost stadium. Sabalenka was playing through a body that was breaking down.
We girls, we easily can get together and go for it. Some of the things I feel like it's really unfair to the players. I think at some point it's going to get to this.
On May 9th, 2026, Sorana Cirstea, a 36-year-old Romanian veteran ranked 26th in the world, beat the world number 1 2-6, 6-3, 7-5. It was Cirstea's first ever victory over a world number one, and it ended Sabalenka's run of 17 consecutive tournaments, reaching at least the quarterfinal, a streak the tournament record describes as unmatched in the modern era. But the scoreline doesn't tell you what Sabalenka revealed afterward. In her post-match press conference, she admitted, "I felt my body was limiting me from performing at the highest level. It's probably my lower back connected to the hip. That limits me a bit in my full rotation. She took a medical timeout during the match. The world number one couldn't complete her full rotation. On clay, the surface that puts the most intense physical pressures on exactly those joints, the lower back, the hip flexors, a high-power game trying to generate pace on an unstable sliding surface. When the world number one physically can't compete at her peak, the energy in the stadium drops. That's not a marketability crisis, that's physics and medicine. But the imagery, an uncharacteristically sloppy performance inside a stadium full of empty corporate seats, that's what social media ran with. And while that image was spreading, something was happening on a different court at the same tournament that the WTA had absolutely no infrastructure prepared to handle. Alexandra Eala, world number 42, the first Filipina to win a Grand Slam junior singles title, trained at the Rafael Nadal Academy, doesn't have a ticket sales problem in Rome. Eala has a logistics crisis. During practice sessions at the Foro Italico in May 2026, fans crowded around the court just to watch Eala train alongside Lyudmila Samsonova. Local spectators were identifying her by name, the Filipina Eala, not by her ranking, not by her results, but by who she represented. And this wasn't new. At the 2026 Australian Open, tournament organizers had to suspend ground pass sales entirely. The sheer volume of Filipino supporters queuing to see Eala on an outside court had become a safety hazard. Ground passes, tickets basically designed for people drifting casually between courts, became the most contested item in the entire venue. Journalist Jose Morgado and former Grand Slam champions Kim Clijsters and Novak Djokovic have all said publicly that Eala carries the weight of a nation. Djokovic himself admitted he'd never seen crowd logistics reach that level for a player still chasing their first major title. And this isn't anecdotal, the numbers back it up. In Dubai, 2026, Eala's match triggered a 48% year-over-year surge in Women's Week ticket sales, confirmed directly by tournament director Salah Talak. Her matches in Dubai outsold the semifinals and the final, which featured established top 10 players like Jessica Pegula and Alina Svitolina. Then at Indian Wells 2026, tickets for her second-round match sold out in, and this is a documented figure, 60 seconds flat, no warning, no countdown, 60 seconds. Put two numbers side by side for a moment. The world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, the holder of the longest active quarterfinal streak in modern tennis, gets a 15,000-seat stadium at 11 a.m., with corporate boxes sitting empty and real fans paying $357 to watch from the upper tier. The world number 42, Alexandra Eala, causes the suspension of ground pass sales at a Grand Slam, sells out a second-round match in 60 seconds, generates a 48% ticket surge at a tournament that ends up outselling its own final. The WTA's ranking-based approach to court allocation is commercially irrational. By putting Eala on Court 7, right in a secondary court built for ground pass holders wandering between matches, the tour takes massive real demand and turns it into an overcrowding hazard. At the same time, the Campo Centrale sits half empty and gets photographed that way. They're manufacturing the crisis and leaving money on the table simultaneously. Sorana Cierstea offered some perspective. Reflecting on her first ever win over a world number one, she said, "Against the best, you can't just play safe." She credited Romanian tennis culture, slightly crazy parents, she said, and widespread TV coverage for developing her generation's competitive edge. That same grassroots national pride energy is exactly what drives Eala's commercial pull. Neither was manufactured, neither came out of a marketing brief. But here's where the biggest contradiction in this whole story actually lives.
She works hard. Yes. That's why we like her, you know, because she's the face of the Philippines.
Just aside from her talent, she's also thinking of the future.
You know, I've only dreamed of making tennis grow in the Philippines, and now I'm bringing a whole new audience to tennis all around the world.
So when Eala plays, we all get together and we all watch her support her as a group of people.
Are there actual like gatherings?
Oh yeah,
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's
We
party time.
plan our dinner.
At the exact moment the WTA was celebrating a $400 million compensation increase locked in over the next decade, meant to close the prize money gap between men's and women's tennis, 21 of the world's top players signed a formal grievance letter. 21, not anonymous complaints, formal, signed, submitted. The players argued that the tour model isn't working the way it should. The scheduling load, the physical cost of an expanding calendar, and underneath all of it, backed by documented evidence from Rome, Paris, and Miami, the reality that even the world number one could be nearly bumped to a secondary court in favor of male stars at events that were simultaneously breaking all-time attendance records. Look at Miami 2024. The final between Sabalenka and Coco Gauff drew 16,830 fans, a complete sellout. Miami tournament director James Blake publicly called out what he described as a deliberate misinformation strategy, framing institutional scheduling failures as proof of a WTA in crisis. The official data and the clickbait headlines were pointing in completely opposite directions, and yet the ghost stadium imagery kept coming. Because the corporate seats kept sitting empty in the morning, because the 11 a.m. slot never changed, because Eala kept getting sent to court 7 while the Campo Centrala broadcast its emptiness to the world. On June 8, 2026, Amelie Mauresmo announced a formal debrief to tackle the empty seat problem ahead of the 2027 season. A roof is also planned for the Foro Italico by 2027. Those are structural answers to a problem that isn't structural.
After that, and watch her try to continue to progress, because I like her game. Obviously, she wants to get better than where she is now. She's got a lot of good hand-eye coordination and ability to take the ball early and redirect. But the fan stuff is always fun for me, because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get up to the top.
In 2024, Rome's pre-sale revenue hit €9,096,000, an 11% increase over 2019. Nearly 79,000 daily tickets issued. The fans are there, the money is there, the demand is documented, numbered, and time-stamped. The question that nobody inside the WTA's commercial operation has actually answered is the one that the 2026 Rome tournament put right in front of them. If a world number 42 can sell out a venue in 60 seconds and force a Grand Slam to suspend ground pass sales, while the world number 1 plays to a ghost stadium at 11 a.m., because the scheduling system is built around corporate hospitality and men's prime time, then what exactly is the WTA selling? And more importantly, who is it selling it to?